Welcome everyone to another episode. Actually, this is the second season of Black Beauty Activist Podcast, where we discuss critical conversations to disrupt westernized beauty standards and raise the consciousness and confidence of the Black community. I am your host, Dr. Tameka Ellington. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm an educator, empowerment speaker, scholar, and a lover of all things Black culture. We are in episode 11. I'm so excited about that. Episode 11, lucky number 11. This podcast started in February of this year, and I've had the honor of being able to interview some amazing guests. So if you haven't seen some of those interviews, please go back and watch. They were so enlightening. We started off the season one, with an incredible gentleman, Jay Wyatt, who actually is the what they call the chow, or the communication person. He does accessibility communication for the university, for Minnesota State actually. And it was wonderful to get a chance to talk to him, because we were talking about accessibility for Black women and the lack thereof accessibility for Black women. So this particular season has been so amazing, and this second season that we have coming up is going to be even more amazing. I have some great guests coming up. A surprise that I just found out about today, a celebrity surprise, which is really awesome, will be on this season. So I am so excited for the information, the awareness, the connection that we will be able to make together. And so in today's episode, we will be getting deep down and personal with our next guest. I often talk about the trauma that I faced growing up as a dark-skinned Black girl with kinky hair in the inner city of Cleveland. This is not a fictionalized story Black girls make up in their heads. This is not an over-exaggeration, as I was told at one point. These are real traumas that I faced, and I know these are real traumas that many other girls also face. These traumas that I speak about have originated from slavery and colonization. These traumas have dripped down slowly into the Black culture and left a dirty stain on the people that has yet to fade. My next guest wrote an entire book about the traumas and truths that are associated with Black and Afro-Latina hair, and we're going to get an opportunity to speak with her. And I'm just praying that my internet stays on. We have a torrential downpour happening, lightning and thundering right now. So please forgive me if we end up having to go out, but I'm praying that all things will be well and we will not go out. But I would like to welcome my guest today to the Black Beauty Activist Podcast, Lyzette Wanzer. I'm going to read your bio just so that everybody can know what an amazing woman you are, and all the work that you're doing in this in the writing field. And we'll jump right on into your conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm glad that I'm going to get a chance to talk with you again. We have had an opportunity to talk briefly before, and so now today we'll get a chance to get a little bit more personal and to learn a little bit more about each other. And I really am excited to learn about your experience as a Black woman wearing natural hair, being brown skin, and what that's been like, especially in California, because that's where you're at, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for coming on. So Lyzette Wanzer is a San Francisco writer, editor, writing workshop instructor. She received her MFA in fiction from Mills College, a flash fiction connoisseur, an essay aficionado. Her work has appeared in over 25 literary journals, magazines, books, and newspaper. Her book, Trauma, Tresses, and Truths, Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narrative, via the Chicago Review Press, has been named Library Journal top 10 social science books for 2022, a Publishers Weekly Fall 2022 Best Book, and an Independent Publishers Group Fall 2022 Top Shelf Pick. That's amazing. Congratulations on that. That's amazing. Lyzette is a contributor to Lyric Essay as Resistance Truth from the Margins via Wayne State University Press, Civil Liberties United Diverse Voices from San Francisco Bay, and the multi-award winning The Chalk Circle Intercultural Prize winning essays. Her articles have appeared in Essay Daily, The Naked Truth, and the San Francisco University High School Journal. Her research interests include professional development for creative writers, Black feminism, critical race theory, and lyrical essay form. Lyzette served as judge of the Soul Making Keats Literary Competition Intercultural Essay category and the Women's National Book Association's Effie Lee Moore's Writing Contest Fiction category. She's presented her work at conferences across the country, as well as produced her own conference, Trauma, Tresses, and Truth, a natural hair conference, which will be taking place in August. Her conference is offered on a 2-day schedule of panels, workshops, speakers, poetry, essay readings, all examining the policing, perceptions, and persecution of Black women's natural hair. Lyzette is a member of the National Writers Union and the Authors Guild. Lyzette has been awarded numerous writing residencies and grants to pursue her amazing work. Again, welcome, Lyzette, to the Black Beauty Activist podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you with us, and congratulations on those awards with the book. That is awesome. Well deserved. And you have been a leader in this. And what I love about you the most is that you've also pulled some amazing thought leaders as well, to partner with you in the process. And so that just makes the project even more special. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm excited about is that the conference that Lyzette is putting on, I'm actually going to be one of the speakers. That's how she and I actually connected. She reached out to me. She found out about my work and invited me to come and speak. And I'm really honored. I'm going to be on a panel with some other amazing scholars that also do research about Black hair politics. So if you have not already registered for this conference, Trauma, Tresses, and Truth. If you have not registered already, and this sounds like something that you will be really interested in, please make sure that you register. This is a virtual conference. It'll be taking place August 4th through the 6th. And there's going to be a lot of knowledge dropped, a lot of gold nuggets dropped. And I'm super excited to be a part of it. And so let's jump on in to the interview. So I would love to learn a little bit more about you. Where you grew up and how you got interested in writing about hair specifically.
So I am a native New Yorker who has lived, I think, everywhere in New York City except for Brooklyn and Staten Island. And Staten Island I've never even been to. Let's see, I went to college in Pennsylvania, came back to New York to live in Westchester County for a while, southern Westchester County, then lived in Atlanta for 6 years before coming to San Francisco Bay Area for graduate school. I came here to get my MFA in creative writing, and I've now been here 18 years.
Wow.
I've been writing for about 25 years now. And about 5 years ago, I wrote an essay called Twisted, which was about one of my experiences wearing natural hair, specifically at that time, Casamance braids, and some of the experiences I had, some while still living in New York, and then some after I had moved out here. And I published that essay. And then decided to create a 5-woman panel with myself included based on that essay for the AWP conference, which is the Association of Writers and Writing Programs conference. It's very hard to get a panel accepted there. I had tried so many times before, but they took this one. They accepted it. And I had to come up with a catchy title for the panel. So I know they like alliteration. So I came up with Trauma, Tresses, and Truth.
Yeah.
We did the panel at the conference. We had standing room only. And afterwards, 6 women came up to me after and said, "Well, where's the book at? You're not selling it up here. Is it down in the book fair?" And of course, there was no book.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how I got the idea. It was from my audience members at that conference.
Wow. You saw a need and you fulfilled that need. Yes, yes. So your latest book, Trauma, Tresses, and Truths, Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narrative. Please tell us about the book, and about some of the people that you partner with the book, and the overall objective. What is the overall objective of the book, and what you hope readers will get from the book?
So the book is actually an anthology, and I decided to go the anthology route as a way of showing, of demonstrating what a universal experience this is
Yeah.
for Black women to experience duress and, unkind comments and ignorant remarks, way off the chart assumptions and humiliating, embarrassing experiences regarding our hair, usually since childhood.
Yeah.
Right? So very few Black women have gotten out of girlhood without already suffering some sort of humiliating
Oh, yeah.
or othering experience regarding their hair. And I thought, well, if I just write this book, people can read it and say, well, that's just Lyzette's experiences. She's had some unfortunate interactions. Of course, that's not, a universal experience. So I knew if I did an anthology, people could not say that. And we also have 4 generations of women in this anthology, as well as women of Brazilian descent, Dominican Republic descent, Canadian, Puerto Rican,
Wow.
Garifuna, Indigenous, and Guyanese.
Wow. Wow.
So again, demonstrating that this is a very universal experience.
This is a global experience. Absolutely.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 I always say anywhere in the world there was colonization, there's Black hair struggle. Anywhere in the world.
True. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow. And it's sad that we feel like we have to prove that we are not exaggerating, that these experiences are not made up experiences. And so doing an anthology was, like you said, your way of being able to prove that this was not just a singular person's experience. And unfortunately, I found that when I was in the process of writing my book too, which is an anthology, and I purposefully did it because of that, I actually had someone say to me, this can't possibly be right. It seems like this is an over exaggeration. It can't possibly be this bad for Black women.
Yeah.
And I had to quickly correct that person.
Yes.
Because as someone who was non-Black, you will never know.
No.
You will never know what the experience is like. Ever will you? Yeah.
No, and that's also why in the book I put a resource guide and especially a reader's study guide in the back with questions and essay questions and a list of different kinds of resources for women wearing natural hair or who desire to go natural. Right. But I had to do it this way, and because you did it this way as well, featuring essayists and poets. And I still get people coming up to me saying, I had no idea that this was such an issue. Yeah. And then having the Crown Act come out in California was a help because people were like, oh, if we need legislation, then this must be a bigger deal than I thought.
Yeah. It's, it's again proving our Black experience, our overall Black experience, as people will say to us, oh, racism is over, and we have to, it's almost like on a daily basis, we're having to prove racism is not over. There's still, in so many ways, we still suffer in many, many ways, but your book and the conference that you're hosting is titled Trauma, Tresses, and Truths. And so I would love for you to talk about one trauma that you've had and talk about one truth that you know for sure about your hair. What is one hair trauma that you've had?
Well, I mentioned several traumas in my own essays in the book, so I don't want to give too much away.
Just
But
give us
I
one.
will say,
Yeah.
okay, so most recently, I was walking in my neighborhood. I'm in San Francisco with my dog on a block, and nobody else was on the block at the time. And he called out, it was meant to be a compliment. He calls out, "Wow, I really like your snakes. I like the color and the length and everything about them." And I just, your face, I just ignored that comment. I looked around, nobody else was on the block, so I knew he was speaking to me. I ignored him and continued walking with my dog. And then a little bit later, he said, "I mean, your snakes, they're really beautiful." And
Snakes.
snakes, snakes.
Wow.
And I'm not Medusa. And so I said, "I don't see Medusa on this block, so obviously he's not speaking to me. I don't know who he's
Right.
speaking to.
Right.
My dog doesn't have any snakes either."
Yeah.
But he said that and meant it as a compliment. And I mean, this is 2023, and what is that? What is that?
Everybody has seen Bob Marley. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? Snakes. That
Snakes,
was
and
weird.
I've had people call them braids and insist that they're braids, that these are braids. I'm wearing dreadlocks now. But snakes?
Okay. Wow. What's one truth that you know about yourself and about your hair? What's one truth that you know?
I know that what I love about my hair is its incredible versatility. So I can wear an updo, I can wrap it, I can put it in ponytails. I often wear it cascading from the top of my head like a fountain this way. I can put beads in it. I can curl it under or over. And it's incredibly, incredibly versatile. And it was versatile when I had braids as well. And I sometimes wonder if that versatility doesn't make some people jealous, because I can come in looking very different,
I think it does. I think it does to some degree. Absolutely, I think it
There's a
does.
little bit of envy.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the versatility, and I love how natural hair looks on us.
And what I love about what you just said, people that are watching, Lyzette said versatility. One of the comments that I've always gotten about, because I'm truly, truly pro natural hair. I've been natural since 98. So for a very long time. Okay. And I talk about natural hair all the time, how it changed my life, how it made my life better, in many, many ways. I've had several podcast episodes where I talk about natural hair. And one comment that I often get from people who are not natural is the fact that they don't like the fact that there's no versatility in wearing natural hair. Yeah.
That's not
And,
true
and
at
they
all.
say that they wear weaves and wigs and all of these other things because it's more versatile. And so what I'm trying to get people to understand is that our hair already is versatile. If you look at our ancestors, they had all kinds of hairstyles. Okay. So versatility is not a good enough reason for you to want to straighten your hair. That's not a good enough reason. And
Have
then
you?
people talk about ease,
Uh-huh.
ease and care. That's not a good enough reason either.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I'm sorry I cut you off. What were you about to say?
I was going to say, have you seen the Rwandan women who wear their hair? It's natural and it's braided, but it goes straight up and it stays up.
I haven't seen them. I have to go look.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, our hair, like there's a children's book or something that says our hair defies gravity or something like that, right? Yeah. Well, another thing that I love about our hair is I curated, I should say, Textures, the History and Art of Black Hair exhibit. And there was a couple pieces of artwork that were talking about hair as defying gravity, right? And one of the things that I said about that is like, what's important to understand is that our hair is the closest thing that we can get to spirit. And if we can elevate that hair, we're even closer than everybody else. Wow.
There's
Wow.
more in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How have you, the traumas that you faced as a young girl, how have you been able to move past some of those traumas?
I think for me, the most important thing was the acceptance within my family, within my nuclear family. And so, yes, I have the cringeworthy moments of, getting my hair done with a hot comb, but I also have the bonding moments of sitting, between my mother's knees while she does the braids, and she would braid it different ways, my sister and myself. And those are pretty fond memories. And also, I never heard any negative comments about my hair from my nuclear family or my extended family. And it was always complimented. We were wearing the beads in our braids long before the Williams sisters were born. And, now it's come back around again. And I believe all of the aunts on my mother's side were also natural.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And she's one of 12. So 3 boys, 9 girls.
Wow. And they were all natural.
Yes.
Wow. That's an amazing experience to be able to come from, because I had the total opposite experience. When I went natural, I had everybody in my house questioning, like, what are you doing with your hair? Yeah.
And there are a lot of stories like that in the book. Unfortunately, there are a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember one story, and I've told this story before. And the reason why I tell the story is because it just goes to show that we know so little about our hair. When I was natural and I was still in college, I was in the early stages of my natural hair journey. And I had gone to stay at home with my mom for one of the breaks or something, Christmas or spring break or whatever. And so I had just gotten dressed, and I would say maybe 10 minutes later, I hear my mother screaming upstairs from upstairs, come up here to this bathroom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what's going on? Like, am I in trouble? And I get up to the bathroom. She was like, clean this pubic hair out of my sink. And I said, pubic hair? I said, Mom, that's hair from my head. She had never seen my hair curly like that. So she thought that I washed up in the sink and didn't get rid of my pubic hair. And the reason, like I said, I tell that story, but it's funny, but I also tell it because we know so little. Think about all the women who have not ever seen their natural hair. There's so many Black women who have never seen their natural hair. Ever since they were little kids, they were getting their hair straightened, and that's all they've ever known. So they don't even know what their real hair texture feels like or looks like.
That's sad. That's really
sad. It is sad. It is sad. It absolutely is. So please tell us about the conference. I am super pumped about the conference. So just like give us a little bit of details about what you're hoping the audience will glean from the conference.
This is actually my second time producing this conference. So the first time, the inaugural conference, was in 2021, and that was 2 days. So this is my second time producing the event, and due to the feedback that I got from participants from the first one, I made it a bit longer and incorporated some other sessions into it. So participants will build their schedule from a menu of workshops, webinars, panels, creative writing readings. We have a keynote speaker, and folks also network with each other in the camaraderie corners, which take place between sessions. So that's where they discuss what they've learned. What session did you go to? What did you learn in that? And they share their own personal experiences with their hair as well. We had attendees from 9 states and 3 different countries attend that one, and people really valued the community and the discussions. Well, sometimes emotions broke to the surface, so there were tears sometimes as people were speaking. There were anger, emotions of anger and shame. So this year I've included a meditation and mindfulness session on the final day to help people metabolize their memories and their emotions in a more restorative fashion. So people get out of this that I'm not alone. I'm not alone in still struggling with the decision whether or not to go natural or being afraid to do so because how it might affect my job or my job prospects or being able to be taken seriously in the boardroom or the conference room. I'm not unusual in having heard horrible things from teachers about my child's hair. Or sending my child to school with their hair one way and then having them come home with it done a different way by the faculty. And having other assumptions made about my child because they're wearing natural hair.
Yeah.
That their hair is too big and too excessive, and so is their personality. So I want people to understand that there's a community of support out here, and to also get a sense of history. Where does this come from? How far back this goes?
Yeah.
I've heard people say, well, this is a relatively new development only in the past 20 years. I'm like, no, it's not at all recent. Not at all. And yes, there was a new natural hair movement that started in, around the 2000s, but this goes back, centuries. And I wanted to know about the Tinyon laws and, I want to know interesting things, that slaves used to braid escape routes into their hair. Many people don't know that. They used to braid code messages into their hair. Our hair can do that.
Yeah.
Hold it for days at a time.
Yeah.
So I want them to have a sense of all of that. And then also to understand how this issue affects Afro-Latinas in just a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my next questions, because I really wanted to find out, how is the experience? Like you were very purposeful in making sure that your book focused on both Black experience as well as the Afro-Latina experience. And so is there something similar that you found about the experiences? And then what was something about the Afro-Latino experience that you found that was just something that you would have never guessed?
Well, of course, there's a large overlap between the Black and Afro-Latina experience with natural hair, including the start of, persecution in childhood. However, Afro-Latinas experience an additional level of complexity, where both texturism and colorism are at play, and usually within their own families. So this is especially true if a Latina was the only one in her family that had kinky, coiled, or curly hair, whereas other members maybe had straighter hair, or if her complexion was darker. So you'll read several essays in the book about these intersections in the family and how they impacted Afro-Latina women as they grew up. But you'll also hear stories about self-esteem building, reassurance, acceptance, and pride. Unfortunately, even today, many Afro-Latinas and Afro-Latinos deny their African roots. No pun intended.
True. That is true. They do. Yeah.
To this day, and they will refuse to check off those boxes on the census and various other surveys. So it's still a problem. One of the people we got out of the country was from Brazil, who attended in 2021, and another one was from Kenya. So I wanted to make sure that those voices were heard, and I've heard often that they're very happy that Afro-Latinos are included in this
Oh yeah. And I think what that does is show that this issue, like you said, is much bigger than what people think.
Yep.
By including Afro-Latina women, it shows that this is not just this small, even small African American problem or
Mm-hmm.
Black problem. This is a global problem. Any place in the world where it's been colonized, any kind of colonization, Spain, London, wherever you want to go in the world, where places have been colonized, there's going to be issues,
Yes.
your struggle, and colorization. I mean, I'm
Yes.
sorry, colorism. Sorry,
Yes.
colorism. There's going to be issues with colorism. Um, what's what I find what I find really interesting is that Afro Latinas also have the intersectionality, especially if they live here, of
Mm-hmm.
language.
Yes.
I just had a situation. I went to go and speak to a group of students, and this young lady, I was giving all the students an opportunity to come up and share what
Mhm.
they have written. And so this one young lady got up and she said, "Can I share?" And I said, "Absolutely, you can share." And then she said to me, "Well, can I say it in Spanish first?" And I looked at her. I had no clue that this young lady was a Latina.
Right.
She didn't look, quote
Right.
unquote, look Latina. She looked like a Black girl.
Yes.
Okay. So this young lady starts speaking, and she's speaking beautiful Spanish. And first off, I was blown away because I think she was like probably one of the first Latinas that I mean, I live in Ohio. Okay. We don't
Yes.
have a whole lot of a diversity of, like, we
Yes.
have Puerto Rican people and some Dominicans, honey, and that's
Oh.
about it. Okay. Maybe some Mexicans, but not a vast,
Right.
grouping or diversity of Latina and Latin people.
Mm-hmm.
But this young lady got up and she started talking, and I'm just like, my mouth is just like on the floor because I'm like, I can't believe that this young lady is a Latina.
Mm-hmm.
Her skin was probably almost about the same color as mine.
Mm-hmm.
Her hair texture was not, it was kinky. It
Yep.
was, and I was just amazed. And what she came up front to talk about was the fact that as a Latina, she has been teased, she has been bullied because of the way that she looks. And she was brave enough to express to the rest of the students how unfair it is, to bully someone because of how they look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yay,
Yeah.
good for her.
I'm so proud of her. She brought the whole class to tears. She did. She did. She did. And I'm just so proud that she felt comfortable enough to stand
Uh-huh.
up and talk in front of that big group of students. But it's the hair situation runs really, really deep.
Yes.
And we got to keep talking about it
Yes.
until the issues are done. We got to keep talking about it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we have a National Crown Act
Yes.
that protects and covers every state in the country. Not this patchwork quilt that we have, this state I'm safe and this one I'm not.
Yeah. Well, the Crown Act has not been passed in Ohio. It's I think it's on the books, but we still have not passed it yet.
Okay. Okay.
And what is interesting to me is that it's like, what's the holdup? What is the holdup? I actually wrote an op-ed about this situation with the Crown Act, and I couldn't get it published anywhere because the language that I put in there was so in your face.
Okay.
So I'm like, what is the issue? Why are we not passing this? People are still saying that it's not an issue.
Are they claiming that the Civil Rights Act already covers it? Because I've heard that a lot from.
Yeah. That's what they're saying. And then here too in Ohio, that same, that woke agenda that Texas started. And that now Florida is doing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
We also are dealing with that in Ohio now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
With banning and all
all of our universities have been told that they can no longer do any diversity work.
Okay. I
So
did
this
not
is,
know that.
yeah,
Ohio.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's still, we're the universities, other people, we have our election is on August the 8th, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and we have to vote, you know, whether or not this thing will, continue. And yeah,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty bad. So the last I checked, the Crown Act was actually passed in about 28 states. There's still about 22
Yeah.
states or so that don't have the Crown Act as part of the legislation.
Yes. And even Texas got on board.
They did just recently. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did. I was surprised about that. I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised, but I was really
Got on
happy.
board. Yep.
I was really
Come
happy
on,
about
Ohio. Come on.
it. I know. We could talk about this all day long, but you are a writer of 25 years experience, an experienced writer who's gotten grants for her work, who's gotten awards for her work, who's published several pieces of literature. What piece of advice would you give new writers or
Hmm.
people who are looking to bolster their writing career? What would you tell them?
This is what I tell my students in my professional development workshops. I teach professional development workshops in general, and then in 2020, the summer, during that tumultuous summer of racial reckoning, I started teaching professional development for writers of color. So, what
Mm-hmm.
I tell all of my students is that if you are serious about becoming a professional writer, that the most significant tool you need to have in your arsenal, besides talent and perseverance, is a thick skin. So
Mm-hmm.
if you fold or get discouraged easily, or you don't take critique well,
Mm-hmm.
can't handle the abundance of rejections that are part of every writer's life, this is not the profession for you.
Yeah.
Like all of the arts, writing is more of a calling than a career choice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I quickly learned that in academia, writing journal articles and getting some accepted and some not accepted,
Mhm.
like you said, you have to have a thick skin. And
Yes.
one of the things that you have to do is also not take it personal.
Yes, that's
You know,
right.
so thick skin and don't
Mhm.
take anything personally.
That's right. You are the
Hmm.
surgeon and the writing is your patient. So maintain that
Ooh,
clinical
ooh,
objectivity.
wow, I
It
like
comes
that.
with practice. It's not something you get overnight. It comes with practice.
Wow, I like that. So, do you have anything, Lisette, that you would like to discuss that we didn't touch on?
Um, I just would like to encourage people that if they haven't already signed the Federal Crown Act petition,
Hmm.
to please do so.
Yes.
The Crown Act website has it on there. I'm going to be putting it on my website as well.
Hmm.
And we want, people of color to be not just African Americans and Afro Latinos, but multiracial people also have this problem.
Yeah.
We want them to be protected in every state.
Yeah.
And also, I want to mention that while I was blogging about the book before it was published, I heard from Eastern Indian women, I heard from Middle Eastern women,
Mm.
I heard from quite a few Native Americans that said we also have this problem. And they would
Mm.
even go so far as to say, can we, you haven't sent it to a publisher yet, can we sort of elbow our way into this book? And I said,
Mm.
well, not this one,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
one down the line. But we have a handful of Native Americans registered for this conference, for example.
Nice.
And I've heard from Native American men that they have been turned down for jobs because their hair is too long, even though they're wearing it in a nice, neat braid down their back. It's not all over the place. Nevertheless, they've been told they have to cut their hair, which contradicts their tribal beliefs. And
Absolutely.
they can't cut it. They believe that there's power in their hair, and it's
Hmm.
a disrespect to their culture, their elders, and their ancestors to cut it.
Hmm.
I also have heard from white women about Jewish hair, which I had never heard of before.
Yeah. It is a thing. It is a thing, but I remember I had gone to a conference and there was a woman who came up to me, Jewish woman,
Okay.
and she was talking about, issues with her hair. And one of the things that I politely reminded her of is you may have this issue with your hair, but you don't also have the intersectionality of the color of your skin. You don't have to deal with that. So your hair texture is not going to be looked negatively upon the same way in which my hair texture is going to be. It's not the same experience.
There's not an equivalency there. Yes.
It's not the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I really actually kind of get offended sometimes when I do have our white brothers and sisters try to compare and say that they've experienced something else similar. Like, no, you haven't.
No.
And you never will.
Mm-hmm.
You won't. You won't ever experience this.
Mm-hmm.
You think maybe that you think you have, but you never will. You never will. You never will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's the worst. I think that's the worst. And I've been doing this a lot. And when I and it takes everything in me not to say something sometimes. I was given a tour of textures, and it was for a group of women who happened to be predominantly white group of women.
Okay.
And one of the women stepped up and said, oh, we have the same issues with our hair. We do X, Y. And I was like, it's not the same. You're totally missing the point you're missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing the point because you're trying to find some kind of there is no similarities.
Yeah.
It's rough. And doing this kind of work, I think, not only, like you said, takes a tough skin, but it also takes a lot of passion and a lot of perseverance to do this kind of work, because you're constantly up against people questioning you, or people, it's it can be.
We haven't even talked about the people coming up and going. We haven't even talked about that.
Oh my God!
Without asking, without no warning.
Mm-hmm.
And men have this issue too. I mean, my book happens to focus on women.
Yeah.
But I was at a literary festival reading from the book a couple of weeks ago in Minnesota, and a man came up to me. He has long dreadlocks, and he said he can actually feel when someone is about to sneak up behind him and touch his hair. And it had happened the week before in the grocery store, and he got that feeling. He turned around, and he said an elderly white gentleman had his hand this close to his hair. And he turned around and he went off. He went off on him, because you're not doing that to anybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are not a pet.
No, we're not.
We are not pets. Our bodies deserve the same autonomy as yours.
And by the way, I have a dog, and I expect you to ask me if you can pet him.
Dog. Right.
So, and people do that. Yeah. So I don't get treated as well.
Yeah. Wow. So how can the audience stay connected with you, Lyzette?
So through my website is the easiest way, which is Lyzette Wanzer, MFA.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm on there almost every day, and I'm under Lyzette Wanzer there as well. For academics, I'm also on ResearchGate, if you happen to be on there.
Very nice. All right. Well, this was wonderful. And again, if you have not registered yet, please go ahead and register for the conference. There's going to be some incredible conversations that are going to be happening. A lot of revelations, a lot of stories. I didn't, the poetry aspect of it all, I think is going to be just absolutely beautiful. So if you're someone who loves spoken word, I mean, you should come, because there's going to be a lot of pain revealed, a lot of an essence of self-acceptance
Yes.
revealed, in people's poetry. So
Mhm.
if you want to come and learn more, and this conference is not just for people of color or Black people, this conference is for everybody.
Mhm.
And the reason why it's for everybody is because the Black hair experience is not just a Black experience.
Yes.
It's a global, universal experience that we all need to know about.
I have to tell you, I heard from a white gentleman who is married to a Black woman
Mm-hmm.
and they have a child. He
Mm-hmm.
had no clue until
Mm.
the child.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Mhm.
see, that's equipping him as a dad to know what his daughter is going through,
Yes.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Really
We have
cool.
32 speakers. We have some fun also. We have a fun head wrapping session
Yeah.
as well. We have meditation sessions. We have
Ooh,
creative
yes.
writing readings. We've got fun stuff as well. So,
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to the meditative
Mhm.
session. Yes, yes. Absolutely. Well, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening to discuss your book and to discuss the amazing conference coming up. And so I'm excited. And again, everybody, please go ahead and register, get her book. Make sure that you get Lyzette's book. It's called Trauma, Tresses, and Truths: Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narrative. Please pick the book up. You can get the book on Amazon, right? The book is available on Amazon, right? Or you
I
do.
would like to ask that people get the book from an independent bookstore,
Yeah.
or if you're going to get it online from a place like bookshop.org,
Mm-hmm.
or from your favorite Black or Brown owned bookstore.
Yes, 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 yes. That's the first option.
But it is
Absolutely.
available at the other place also.
You said at the other place. Yes. For those of you that live in a small town that don't have any Black, now let me say this: where I live, there is only one Black owned bookstore where I live. And it
Okay.
just opened up
Oh,
maybe about 3, 4 years ago.
okay.
So
Okay.
depending on where you live, you may not have access to Black or brown bookstores.
Mhm.
And so and if you don't have access to that, and if you can't find it at your other local bookstore, then you may have to use the other places. But yeah, yeah.
But
But
bookshop.org will ship it to you also.
there you go.
Bookshop.org will ship it to you. And they
There you
support
go.
stores. Yes.
There you go. There you go. All right. I love that. Well, thank you so much. This was a wonderful
Thank
conversation.
you.
Yes, yes, yes. And I look forward to learning more about you as we continue on this relationship that we have here. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Lisa, for even reaching out to me,
Sure.
the way that you did. So I
And we're
appreciate
looking
it.
forward to your session at the conference.
Yes, yes, yes. It's going to be good. I have a great team of women that's working with that we're working with. So it's I'm excited. So it's going to be good.
Thank you. Thank you so much
You're
for having me.
welcome. You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So this is the part of the episode where I talk a little bit about research. And I think it's important as a fashion scholar to always share resources. So the first resource that I'm going to put up on the screen is the title again for Lyzette's book. Please go ahead and pick her book up. If you would like to register for her conference, this is the link for the conference. So if you would go ahead and screenshot that so that you can have access to the link. I will also be adding these to the description. So once this episode is published, I'll make sure that I add the links and everything that you will need to be able to register and to be able to have access to her book. I'll put all of those in the description so that you can have easy access. Okay. But the research that I'm going to be talking about today is titled The Influence of Colorism on the Hair Experiences of African American Female Adolescents. And this particular literature, I picked it up because I thought it was really important to not only talk about Black hair in a sense of what adult women go through, but as Lyzette mentioned when we first started talking, this is something that starts in early years. girls in early years, as they're growing up, have hair traumas in their early years. So this particular article is actually interviews of people that are young people that are 13 to 17. And so the study employed interviews from these teen young ladies and found that colorism is embedded in their lived experiences and perpetuated by family, peers, and society. Colorism is a term that was coined by Alice Walker, the author of The Color Purple, and it explains that there's preferential treatment that people get because of their lighter skin tone. And so the author, Lakindra also found that teen girls are heavily exposed to colorism in the media. This is something that we know whenever we turn on the TV, oftentimes it's not dark-skinned people on TV. They've dealt with this in the media. And one of the quotes that I put in my notes that I thought was really interesting to show that this that these experiences of these young people becomes this embedded trauma, if you will. It becomes this mechanism of survival in a way. So I'm going to read this quote that this young lady said. So she was talking about, the researcher was talking with her about this idea of people with light skin having better hair than people who are dark skinned. And the young lady said, "I feel callous. I have been told this so many times that it's just crazy." And so basically what she's saying is that she's become numb to this. This is something that has traumatized her so much that in order for her to be able to survive through her daily experience, she has become callous. And a lot of times we'll find that Black women in many ways also have become callous to these experiences because it's too hard to talk about. It's controversial to talk about. And so we go through life and act like these things aren't happening. And so she also found in her research that we must dismantle the idea that by not discussing painful traumatic experiences, and this is what I was just talking about it being callous. She was saying that if we don't talk about painful traumatic experiences within our communities, such as colorism, they won't just disappear. We're going to continue to carry this thing with us for the rest of our lives. And that's why podcasts like this are so important. Books like mine and Lyzette's are so important. Other people that are doing research about Black hair or doing blogs or videos or whatever the case might be talking about this, it's important that we do talk about this because it's a real thing. It's a real trauma. And if we don't talk about it, it's going to just keep festering. And so hence, again, why thinking about with this podcast, how I can do my best to continue to raise the consciousness of Black people. And my main goal in doing that is that I really want to increase our level of self-esteem, because there's been tons of research that have taken place about the fact that not only women experience trauma, but that trauma then leads to a lack of self-esteem or low self-esteem, low self-confidence. And so the purpose of this podcast is to raise our level of self-consciousness, or our level of cultural consciousness, so that we can raise our confidence. Because once we feel good about who we are as a culture, then our self-esteem has no choice but to follow. And so I'm going to keep talking about Black beauty until it's no longer an issue. And I don't know whether I'll see it in my lifetime. And only thing I can do is just add a little bit. I can just add a little bit that'll chip away at this brainwashing, chip away at this calloused heart, chip away at the trauma that we keep having to face. And so this episode of the Black Beauty Activist podcast is brought to you by my book. Please go ahead and order it. This is on a wonderful book. We've gotten so many amazing pieces of feedback so far about the book, how enlightening it is. A couple of people that I know purchased the book and they were just really blown away. As Lyzette was mentioning, there's people that just don't know that this is an issue. And this kind of book will give you some real in-depth data, because this book is a research book and it talks about research data in regards to Black hair. And so this is going to give you some data that you can use to inform and educate yourself about Black hair. So please go ahead and pick up the book. We're actually in the process of working to get this book on the New York Times bestsellers list. If you are going to purchase, please purchase this week. Purchase this week. You can get it from Barnes & Noble. You can get it from Amazon. There's other small bookstores in your local area that may also have the book. Check there. I got a beautiful text message from one of my girlfriends who is in the Baltimore, Maryland area. And she sent me a photo of my book in the bookstore that's right near Johns Hopkins University. So that was a pleasure and an honor to be able to see that my work is actually in local bookstores. So please go ahead and pick up your copy. Pick your copy up before the 29th of this month, because we're trying to get on the New York Times bestsellers list. We have to sell 5,000 copies in order to be able to do that. So please help us out. In the process of helping us out make this New York Times bestsellers list, you're going to also be helping yourself out, because like I said, you're going to get some massive education. And I'm hoping that this book will raise your level of Black consciousness and love for Black beauty and Black people. And so I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure that you leave a comment. Please like us on YouTube. The podcast also is on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts. So if you use those platforms, you can also find it there. But share this with people in your circle who you believe can benefit. The more people I'm able to connect with, the more people can be impacted, the more people can be uplifted. And all together as a culture, we can all be uplifted together. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Black Beauty Activist Podcast. And always remember that on the other side of fear is your beautiful confidence. Have a good night, everybody. Peace out.